have some great selections for us. They give me like a list and I was like super excited. And we're gonna be feeding them too. So just bring any sort of Mexican dish you want. Anything you can add to our festivities and dressing up is encouraged.
All right, thank you. 1 week from tomorrow then. Any other announcements or anything?
Yeah, I know.
We are thrilled to introduce Christy Bloxam to you. Christy is an associate professor of practice at Utah State University and has been for, I think, 6 years is what we figured out earlier today. She also has a wealth of experience in all kinds of industries that she may be telling you a little bit about. So we're grateful to have her with us. She is our faculty candidate visit for today and excited to have a chance for you to get to know her in this presentation, lunch afterwards, and then those of you who will be joining the smaller group meeting with students later this afternoon as well. So if you'll join me in welcoming Christy to our seminar today.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here, and it's even more exciting that so many of you are familiar to me. I have had the opportunity to rub shoulders with you several times, many times for some of you, and that's awesome. I think you're amazing, by the way. I think the students here, this sounds like I'm trying to bribe you or but I'm honest when I say this. There's something about you that resonates with, I think, what our world needs, and that more people who have the faith that they need to carry, to carry our world to a place where we can all be closer to the Savior. So excited to be here. It's so fun to be able to talk like that, right? Like, I can't do that. I can't quite say those things. I can say they're great, yes, but I can't quite share some of those things. But today, we're gonna, they said teach something, and I'm like, what can I teach them that isn't just gonna be a waste of their time? So I hope that what we're gonna learn today will be something that you can carry through your lives, even if it's just the knowledge, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of a skill set to be able to do some project management. So how many of you are project managers by trade?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Yeah. Do it? Okay, good. How many of you are accidental project managers? You should all be raising your hands, because if you have families, if you have church callings, if you are working on a degree, you have projects that you're working on. Many of them may be, you may manage people, you may manage processes, you may manage equipment or anything like that in order to make these things happen that happen in your lives. And so, these project management skills are actually pretty important. And learning how to do this well and how to organize and work through problems so that you can manage these processes and do them well can have a huge impact on your success in the things that you're doing, whether, wherever that is in your life. And so, it's interesting to me that we don't teach project management to everyone. Like, this should be a basic fundamental course, right? Well, a few years ago, when Utah State was trying to plan a new master's program, we went out and said, all right, to employers, said, what skills do you want our graduates to have? And I would bet this is the same for your program as well. If, we're going to the same people. The number one skill, so above any tools you might learn, above any processes, other processes that you might learn, above learning, understanding how people learn, above all of those things, they wanted them to have project management skills and capabilities. And I thought that was so interesting. And when I was in the field, which I spent, and I'll tell you, because you may not know, I spent quite a few years in corporate. I started out developing educational software, and I started my own company. So I went through the whole startup, be an entrepreneur life. That was fun. Really was fun and fun. It was fun. And got my PhD, and after I finished my PhD, I got recruited, even before I finished, into corporate and worked for companies who, some of them developed software, some of them had other things that they did and other products that they developed, but the experience that I had in corporate showed me how valuable being able to manage a project from start to finish can be. And I mean, I started out developing content for a company, and it wasn't very long before I became their project manager for the learning side of that. And it wasn't very long before that, before I was managing the bigger process. So the process of rolling out their software to clients. And then I was managing even some of their development and their improvement of their software. So, it's all the same skill. And so I went from developing instruction, which is a skill, to managing the processes for the team, to managing the processes for more people who are now rolling it out. So that's marketing and development and everything like that. It's all the same skill. And so as you learn to do these things, it opens up opportunities for you wherever you are, and is super valuable. I think I had, my experience starting my own company and managing all the many hats you wear there helped me to be a better project manager out of, I had to, right? Like, had to stay in business. We had to learn how to do that and do that well. But you can do that now and practice those things and learn about those things. And I'm going to teach you some things today that might help. But understand that this is something that, with not that much more work for you, you can put on your resume as something you can do, because you all have experience in managing something. And especially in the church, we have so many opportunities in the church to lead people and to manage people and processes and activities and so many things, that you actually get the opportunity to practice this more than most people, especially at a younger age. So take advantage of those things, learn what you can, put that on your resume, because quite often, from my experience as a project manager, my next job, I was a director. And my next job after that, I was a VP, but I was always a project manager. That is really what I did. That is really what those jobs become. So I hope that explains why I really feel like this is important. These are important skills. So let's see. I sent out some pre-work because sometimes there are different types of project management. There is a very formal process, and this is the first one I actually learned, and the first one I actually did at a job was this very formal waterfall type of project management. If you were going to be a trained project manager and go get certified, get your PMP certification, this is the type you would do. And it's very linear. You pre-plan everything. You have a calendar and a map for how everything's going to go. There isn't room for a lot of change without disrupting this process. And that's what I did. The first type of project management I did. And it was interesting to watch because we were in an environment where change needed to happen. The client was expecting change. If they said, I need this to change, they didn't want to come back to a process that said, well, if you want to change, we're going to charge you. And that's just how waterfall project management is. It requires a lot of upfront. You have to know what the end is going to be. You're not going to iterate as you go through. Well, after that, the next company I went to, fairly young startup. I mean, it was 250 people when I got there, so not like teeny startup, but they were used to just going how they wanted to, it was a bunch of kids that had started it right out of college, said, this is what we want to do. We want to develop this software. They were learning as they went. And they had a great idea, but they didn't know what it was going to look like. If they had a project manager come in and try and manage that process with that mindset of, well, we'll develop and then we'll change it as we go, it would have been disastrous for that project manager. They would have been so frustrated. But if they used waterfall, which we call it waterfall project management, if they use that type of project management, well, I think mostly because of tech, a different type of project management has really grown to be very popular. And I'm sure many of you have heard of it, and that's Agile project management. Agile makes sense, right? In fact, I got a notification on my phone. I don't know if anybody else did, that yesterday or today, they're celebrating 23 years of the first, they call it the Agile Project Management Manifesto. There's a bunch of programmers that got together. They went to Park City, actually, developed this manifesto for how they felt like projects should be managed, especially in tech. And they called it an Agile project management process. Now, there are several different Agile processes, and that could get very confusing, and I only have so much time, and it's okay. We're going to learn a little bit about Agile today, but just I know I'm being narrow in what I'm talking to you about. If you went out and studied this, and many of you probably already have, you will know that there are different types of even Agile project management that are a little bit different. And I'll recognize that, but I'm not going to teach them all to you today. So one of the reasons why Agile became so important is because these software companies needed to produce an MVP. Does anybody know what an MVP is? I didn't, by the way, the first time what is it?
A minimum viable product.
Yes, a minimum viable product. Now, the first time I heard that, I'm like, who would want to create a minimum viable product? That's just ridiculous. Because that means it's like just barely works. Why would we do that as a company? So why would we want to do that? What are some reasons?
Customers want feedback and lots of products.
They have to see something first to be able to give you feedback, right? Sure. So they wanted to get something out so that then they could get feedback from the people actually buying and using their software or their products. That's one reason. Any other ideas? Go ahead.
Saves you building a bunch of features that you later find out we don't even need.
Right. So it actually reduces the amount of time to production, right? To get something out, and can cost you less because in the end, you're hoping you don't end up doing just that, producing things that nobody really needed. Anybody else? Any other ideas? I know somebody else was raising their hand.
There's a lot like that. You get to the end and you're like, oh, we should have done, and oh, it would have been better this way. And
Yeah.
you're already like put so much money into it, and then going back and redoing it would just cost a lot.
Right. So you can iterate as you go. You can say, oh, we need this to change, right? And that's okay. That's part of the process. You plan that into the process. Another reason is many of these startups, and we live in startup land, so that's easy to say here, is startup. You all know what that is. They need funding. But it's pretty tough to get funding if you don't have anything to show. But you don't have the money to develop clear to the end, a full product. You need to be able to develop a prototype that you can test and that you can show to be able to get funding. And so that's another reason why it's really great to work towards a minimum. I'm better off saying MVP, minimum viable product. And so the process we're going to talk about today is kind of helping you to understand how you get to a minimum viable product. And instead of, a lot of times when we do projects, we just say, okay, these are all the things that have to happen. But we're going to talk about how you decide what has to happen to get to the minimum. Now, you might think, well, that shouldn't be that hard. Well, it might not be if there was only one person involved. Where this gets tough is when there's more than one person involved and they all have their own opinions about what's most important. Right? So this will be kind of fun. So what I need you to do, I need you to divide into groups of 5 or 6. So just kind of, and you're going to need a wall, likely. Either a wall, or if anybody has Lucid Spark and they know how to use it, or whatever, something like that that can mimic sticky notes. You can do it on your computer if you'd rather, but only if you know how to use it. You're not going to have time to figure it out. So, so choose either a wall and 5 of your closest friends, 5 or 6, and or your computer.
I'll get out of the way.
Following.
No, I'm not pushing that direction. Am I? Should I'm gonna
Okay, so are you
everybody.
Sir.
You're gonna give us sticky notes. That's why we need. I'm gonna, up here.
I'm done.
Break us up on Valentine's Day.
I have tons in my backpack, but I. Better.
2 of them are gonna be.
Anybody else?
And me and the other one are gonna be. Wait, everyone gets something.
Friend in line up where?
You celebrate after.
Experience that.
Greg, you're still.
Back celebration.
Going there.
You know, all of my pencils.
Exhausted. 2 days ago. So this will be like sticky all the way through. Hey, guys. So. Everybody, your spot. Yes.
Don't judge my spelling.
For me.
You just said go with your closest. Thank you guys. And we're gonna. Yeah. It's like time. Even though I.
And for anybody that's online, you can just do it yourself. Yeah. yourself, if you want. Okay, everybody set? Anybody need anything? All right. Okay, first thing I need you to do. Vance, okay. I need you to list your morning activities. So let's pretend you all have jobs and you're going to a job, all right? So I need you to list your morning activities. Now I realize some of you do something different, but your morning activities have to cover everything. So you're going to do the big group of activities rather than just maybe yours, okay? List them, put them, huh?
Things that are in common.
No, I want you to list everything. So if it's only, as long as one person in your group does it, okay. It needs to go in the pile.
It's its own activity.
Yes. Each sticky note gets its own activity and one last thing, because this is important. Is everyone listening? This is important. So don't.
Like that on Rick Jetson.
Listening. It's the first.
Listen up, guys. Okay, one last thing. Break down the activity. So don't just say eat breakfast. Right? Like there are things that happen for you to get to breakfast. So break them down. You'll want them broken down, I promise. So do that as you can. Now, if you run out of stickies, I have more. Okay, so go. Do it. Or you don't have
All right.
Activity. Okay. Sometimes. Trends. Dogs slash children. They have to be separate.
And then
You guys write. So you're not writing the same thing.
Okay.
Makes sense?
I was gonna say.
Otherwise you're gonna.
One thing we're taking over here, everything was That was the first thing that
I get up.
Into the kitchen.
I don't know how you do it, Peter. My wife's pretty standard.
Good to know.
Put that in her
makeup, right? I don't know what to write for that.
I don't know what I has anyone.
What is the
Fresh hair.
Oh, look at you.
On there.
But you think.
I'll shower every day, not gonna lie.
So, the great thing now.
But I will concede to the cereal.
Mini desk, right?
You guys make sure these tasks get you all the way to work.
Read my scripture.
Another one.
You're right.
You do it separately.
First,
Can I get a? They
Got canceled.
Awesome that I have.
7 days I haven't done that. 7 days the class.
Just do check emails or?
I have to make everyone just don't wake up.
Whether I really do.
Okay.
I'll check my email.
Yeah, sorry. I'm the same, but.
I don't. Yeah, no, you're doing everything up.
I'm like.
Write it down when I clench my teeth.
I'm not sure mine can, but I still.
Down, seriously.
Fit. Rest. Fit. I know. Take out clothes.
I don't know.
Well, it's all.
I'm on my drive to work.
I mean, that would quickly. Wait. Put on my contact shower. Contact shower.
Makeup. Yeah, no.
Hey.
Keep forgetting. So.
Contact on the floor. He
Yeah.
said, as far as
One of my roommates.
bus.
It was weird, but I was showering like, you know, the towel and washing. Talk to their.
Says, feels.
The water. The water goes. The water's like too hot. The kind of water. All right.
Looking at my resource.
On scale. Yeah. Side. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
There's some things that are just.
Yeah, perfect.
Fine.
I agree.
Go to the bathroom, right. I
Everyone knows. I mean, to get.
I'm trying to get fresh teeth out, but they won't come off.
Brush your teeth. Like, I haven't written that up yet. I was like, there's so many, I was like. That big a big deal. You know, like, they get up, are they?
I tried.
Valentine's Day. That actually happens. But
That's good. That's good. You're doing.
Are we supposed to get to work? So.
Yeah.
9 children and
It's also like brushing her and
everyone.
it says shaving early now.
Yeah, good dress.
It's work or it's leaving for work.
It gets you to work. Yeah, so that's.
So-
Sure that.
Oh, it's too real. Too real.
Like,
That
you
never
loaded it, but you
happened.
didn't turn it on. Oh my god.
Oh, turn on the light.
Done a lot more. Stack.
I turned. I really don't know. I mean, in our room, I turned it on. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I unplugged my phone.
I need to try on my kids' shoes. Well, sometimes.
Everyone. Because she's here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not every morning.
Well, that's where it all. Connections. Just this quick like. Going where.
All my family plays it.
Who gets the car that day?
Yeah, I put down in the toilet. And Christy was like, you should.
I don't wanna know.
Over though.
Once again, the last time.
Okay, one more minute.
Some people say scripture study.
Have a good day, you know? You can make this
Oh, yeah.
We do that.
Are we about there?
Yeah, yeah.
Usually after this, try to do. You have to.
Oh,
You have to have like.
yes.
Take that from the phone.
Even it says waking up about.
All right, everyone.
Sure.
That's what I can do. Everyone got it? This is your next task. The next task is to organize your stickies under a group. So group these activities. Like this is an example. Shower, brush your teeth, shave might be under hygiene. And then put a title on the top of your, so you can make group them in columns if you want. And put the title of the column at the top. Does that make sense? Any have any questions?
It's sticky.
We have.
On your side. And then there's the caretaking ones that are like the kids and the dogs, right? So hygiene, caretaking.
Like since kindergarten, I've been trying to remember that one. I just not there. I was selfish. Yeah.
So hygiene's one, and then go.
Caretaking, right? So
Travel, right?
take care of the dog, take care of the kids. Since I like the most simple, that is just like planning, right?
The secret that Maria taught us. Is like, to be like,
For me, this is.
I just got would communication be its own?
I communicate many ways, yeah, so that activity.
Okay, you got any more stickies? Okay, guys, we got more stickies. Sure.
Planning.
I'll get to this other group. Hey, did anyone? What am I getting out of bed? What is that?
Thank you. Well, if we got something.
Our stuff.
We
could put these. That's what I said, we can use the new stickies for our categories. Hygiene, travel, are our two headers right now. Yeah, and I put slash shave. Yeah. Bernice is doing makeup.
A lot of time.
Covering nakedness. I love it.
For all the.
I think people just call that dressing.
You know.
Check kids' diapers. Is that hygiene? Yes. Yeah.
You got something.
Kids' outfits. Wait, we're doing naked. Do they have to be in any order? She said there's different categories.
This category.
Okay, so what we can for that. Nakedness. So change kids' diapers. Oh wait, that's hygiene. Oh, check kids' diapers, change kids' diapers. Yeah, because
My husband.
Kind of house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say.
Every time I go to the grocery, you have it like meetings. It should be.
You just made this a little hard on yourself, didn't you? I'm like, let's see, how? Next.
Get out of it.
I'm a heavy.
First. Get out of it.
You guys about done?
Maybe this is over. here.
Okay. So you guys, you about done?
They're all food.
Okay. so you guys-
Saying while you can put it.
Here, it doesn't necessarily go in your order. Yep. Travel,
I'm pressing me now. Has it too.
covering nakedness.
There's.
Get out of bed. Wake up, everyone.
It's your phone. You gotta
Going to rise.
Awareness.
Awaken or rise.
Put it on yourself.
Yes.
Okay, you guys got it? Are you there? Okay.
What do we call this?
All right, this is your next task.
Just.
The first one is, now I want you to take your group the best you can. I know that sometimes you've got some tasks that are, gonna be a little concurrent. Do the best you can to organize your columns by time. So the first thing you do to the last thing you do.
Should we just number them?
Okay, so just, right now, you're just moving those columns. That's all.
First thing I do is wake up.
I just.
Different, but I
Oh, people exercise.
get up.
You didn't put that in at all. You have one.
We'll leave it there. Hygiene. And then,
Is that what walking to class is?
before, after hygiene.
Like somebody that shower. That's actually.
For me, it actually.
You guys got that?
Regular pooping. That's his landmark. That is my landmark.
Step 5.
For AP. Before.
You guys ready for step 5?
You're covered when you.
Now, this one,
Okay, there you go.
is everyone ready?
So like.
Those guys aren't ready.
Yes. Not bad.
Give them a second.
So like. That was heard.
I never have time to exercise.
I love that.
Like the morning.
So, we don't have the students. No,
I just like.
Guys, the morning.
Walks to class.
Going strong, you're talking where.
Already have 50-foot bench.
It's probably not like.
So really being,
Stuff. But she inspired me. How in proximity to the happy meeting.
Literally live like.
Being.
Ready? My man.
Anytime during the.
It's from his
I
office.
could do one now. So you do them though in the.
I have never been able to.
You can, and then you can't wait long as it's. I'm actually.
20.
So in the evening.
Which
yeah.
is slightly better. Like, some, like I
Yeah,
did.
at least.
Much done in 17 minutes. We'll go to 5 now.
Oh, yeah.
Because.
I guess we can just put a star on the line.
I think.
We're not gonna laugh. Time to do it. You guys are in the bathroom. Here's fun, yeah.
Me more than the ones.
Number it.
Okay, this is the next step. Everyone ready? At least to here. Now what I need you to do in each one of those columns is put them in order of how critical they are. So the most critical will be on the top. The least critical will be on the bottom.
Timeline.
Dogs are always critical.
It feels like clean.
Teeth after I showered. Brush your teeth before you go.
Not of each. Within each heading. Sorry, thank you. Those three.
Order tasks close.
That is probably the most critical.
Probably press.
Two words.
This is where working as a group gets difficult.
Okay. covering naked last year. Picking, never do makeup.
I think it's
Okay.
very.
Put them on.
Just wear something
Or something. Outfit, yeah.
more crucial.
Yeah.
than to pick, but-
Outside naked.
Probably even more important than picking the outfit.
Does our makeup look good? Yeah, everybody.
Okay.
You're off.
It's more socially acceptable to be barefoot than to be naked.
Matter anymore, right?
You can.
Depends on the culture you live in. It should also be freezing cold outside and I've got to wear.
What else watched? I forget about Mr.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I agree.
you can speak.
Pray or read. Pray, I would say, is more important.
Are we thinking temporally or like?
I would say prayer is more important.
Your calendar first.
Testing words make a judgment call and say, five scriptures down the list. Okay, I'm gonna.
Get ahead in all my classes.
Okay.
Then we're good.
I will say changing.
So I'm caught up, but then I'm not ended.
Not that it's on there.
Got that? So that's, so, but it's.
Exercise, man.
So
Maybe exercise.
It's a harder thing for today. Guys, 2 minutes.
Well,
So they haven't been very specific.
I gotta say, man.
I'm always guessing everything.
Man, yeah. Look, I put that. That's pretty much the same thing. It's just with your kids. My proxy.
Well, are you guys about done? That's me.
Yeah, yeah.
Binary. Kyle. About you hide.
Whatever.
Linen and.
To the back.
You know, so.
Will not go well.
Leave it where it's at. Tuesday.
We're still arguing about. Welcome to this.
Right?
I think I'm
Do the best you can. We're gonna have to get them.
Okay, you.
My kids never.
Lower that.
It's hygiene. It's hygiene.
I've been showering today.
I don't do. I need the emotional view. And if I'm.
Okay. I can.
I know, but I'm leaving them emotionally unsupported. Relationship with my
that for 10 days.
Shower sequence.
Like you're gonna be turning out of.
No, I
Kind of old enough yet to have that kind of.
We did it. So how many?
On the one.
Which time?
You so. How many times do you have that? So my. Did you watch Hey, did you watch? You didn't say. Yeah. Well, this we're doing a lot of did you like right now.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
Everyone,
Let me check. Oh, no, I didn't.
okay,
Let me check.
are you done?
What's it up?
Husband doesn't always have time.
Okay, you'll have to really listen to this next
I
point.
have that praying.
I know, some of them really.
Okay, so it's kind of hard, right, in a group, because everybody has different priorities. But at some point, you have to decide what's important, right? And this is why. Next thing. This is where Agile really, this is where you really start to understand how this can be an Agile project. Drama. You overslept. Oh, no, you have a very important meeting. You have 15 minutes to get out the door. 15 minutes. Now I want you to draw, okay, you can do this in several ways. I have tape if you want to put a line through tape, you can just divide it. Or you can draw a line at the bottom of the bottom one. Of the, you know, the ones that are now critical versus non-critical, all right? You have 15 minutes to get out the door.
A lot of diapers this morning.
to go to work. And you need to do it safely.
That's one right there.
I did not talk.
They didn't get out of the room. Their problem.
Order it.
Bring Nancy there. Andy, our team outfit. It's funny how many times my dad, it's in the car, with her shoes.
You have to.
I got-
You're supposed to draw a line and then you have to let them, you just let them out.
The line we keep.
Pray that I'll remember all this.
I'll-
Remember.
As I'm doing everything else. Still makes it above these or not?
All of that. I would say after taking your part.
All right, I love that most, now is all the hygiene gonna go? Like I.
By lunch.
In all honesty, you can get spraying every day.
Okay, we're on the way.
You could put the.
Thanks, Steve. All hygiene go.
Yeah, like the
I know, I gotta do that. I gotta do that. Yeah, okay. And then.
This was group work.
Well, when you have a fabulous.
My kids go to eat. Yeah, yeah. Pull it back and go below. Okay, yeah. Maybe lunch.
I do.
If you're saying that. Put on kids' shoes, this was covering nakedness. Right.
Walking
Yeah,
by
oh, yeah.
the stairs.
So campus there. And we've made. You have to.
Go to the bathroom. Maybe they're staying home today. I don't know.
You agree? I'm sorry in my heart.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
You guys.
All right. Oh, we minimize that one. It is interesting how many things like, no, that's one. No. And get to go.
I can't work with
Don't need anything. And climb the stairs.
kids.
That's why it was important to folks. Don't say.
2 minutes, you gotta catch up.
That's the audio.
Listen, I'm on the way to work.
You're listening. Okay, you're listening.
Possible, right? Okay, you guys got it?
Yeah, so really, we're not eating breakfast today. And,
What you absolutely had to do. Okay, everybody got it? How hard was that as a group to decide what's most important? Are you a morning person? It's tough, huh? Because everyone, like, trying to decide, how critical things work. It's different. This is what it's like to work in an agile environment, and you're trying to get down to a minimum viable product. Everybody kind of has their own little pet part of that, especially if their job revolves around it, right? Like, no, don't get rid of that, or I won't have a job. You have to learn to adapt, and you have to learn to not think about just your personal feelings about it. But you've got to get down, you've got to cut it down as far as you can. So let's analyze this a little bit, real quick.
Throwing exercise.
So, good job. You all were able to cut enough out that you could get the goal accomplished. That's great. I know it's not pretty. No breakfast for most of you. Some of you have kids that may have to fend for themselves.
Yep.
You start adding some of those, really tough things that you can't control, it gets tough, right? Now let's think about this. Something that happens is some of your groups are gone. You're not even doing anything on those groups. Some of them, yeah, these are pretty, and that just is the way it is. You have to, as a group, decide that maybe, one process isn't important, even though you've hired somebody to do that process. We've talked about that. Maybe it's somebody's job. So, helping them to be agile as well. These are some of the challenges. Context is key, right? Make breakfast means something different if it's a Saturday and your kids are all home versus a day you have to go to work. You also have to take into consideration when you're trying to design these agile processes, the context. it might be true one time that you can do without it, and it might not be true every time. So it's all part of that giving and taking in this process as you're going. But this is a great exercise to help you understand if you ever, if you're ever in a situation where you're doing agile project management and you're trying to get to an MVP and you've got a lot of tasks to get there. Organizing it in this way so you can see what is critical. Sometimes we don't, if we just have all these tasks, we're like, oh, I want to do that and I want to do that. But when it gets to the point where you're like, I only have 15 minutes. I can't do that. I'd like to do that, but I can't. Or you might find different ways to do it. Like how many of you listen to scriptures in your car on your way to work? You might find other ways to accomplish some of those tasks. So I hope this helped you to kind of understand a little bit about project management, about agile project management. And how, man, it's give and take, it's iterative. When we start doing, there's a lot more to it than this, of course, but this is one process that can be used to help decide what tasks are most important or what tasks are most important first. Because after this, after you get your minimum viable product, you're now going to want to add features and, correct any bugs that are in there or whatever. So then, the next round deals with a different set of tasks. And so you're thinking about it a little bit differently because now you're building, but what's most important and who decides? So there are some challenges in here with Agile that maybe you can see, like who decides what's most important? Who governs, the timeline and how much time we have? A lot of things like that can make this challenging, and it takes a little skill in project management to be able to think through these processes in this way. So hopefully that helped. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because I've got like 1 minute. I was pushing. I didn't know how long this would take, but you guys did great. Any questions?
Maybe you could comment on something. As we were drawing our line, we actually rearranged our
Some things were more valuable than you thought.
some things we decided were more valuable in our 15-minute situation.
We fed the dog and not the children.
Is that wrong?
It's the children farms. I don't know. Yeah, it can change, and that's agile still. We can change some of these. Now, when you get into sprint planning and stuff like that, if any of you know that, then you actually kind of combine a little bit of, yes, we're going to do these things during this period of time, and we're not going to take anything more. And we're going to try and hit that deadline. So you're actually combining the two processes a little bit if you start doing Scrum planning, but if any of you have done that, then you understand what I'm talking about. But this is Agile and it is fairy. And one of the problems you have in Agile project management is that the priorities can change so quickly. The direction can change so quickly. And as a project manager, it is your job to make sure that you're still getting to a goal that you actually don't know what it is sometimes. You don't know what this product should look like at the end because you're iterating, but you need to make sure that you recheck. You recheck the progress as you go to make sure that eventually you're going to get here. And sometimes that's checking with your clients or your customers or your learners or whatever it is. This is where you're evaluating as you go, is this meeting your needs? And if it's not, then next time, you go through this process, you have to reevaluate and you have to let go of your own projects sometimes. So this takes a mindset, and it's sometimes tough to do in a group. But if you're managing the process well, you'll help your group to understand, that we all have to let go. And we all have to do what's best for the project itself. So hopefully that taught you something, gave you a skill. You could try this if you ever need to do an MVP. I think, Vacations are really good for this because everybody has all the things they want to do, but you only have so much time, right? Maybe putting it on a board like this can help you. Any other questions?
We're gonna stop here and thank Christy for her time. You guys know the drill. Of course, you want to ask other questions, and of course, you want to get to know her, and she wants to get to know you. But I'm gonna escort her in her food, right? While you read. Have a great conversation with her, but also. And find this afternoon. You've got a busy afternoon, everyone. You can't get her to work.
And students have a meeting with her at
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, so.
Same location as the
Oh, it's down. Yeah, no.
Time, so it's worth coming back for.
Who do these belong to?